Bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
Whereas Panther Mountain is totally opposite. It's a mountain on top of a crater.
I think the weather challenges on this incident were particularly difficult.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains Podcast.
Let's begin. So, episode 167. So, Kim Levinsky joins us tonight to talk about her Long Path, Fastest No Time documentary that's coming out. Kim, what's the name of it again? Can you preach it? Like, go out and like do like a whole theater thing. Can you do that?
I need to channel my inner theater voice. It is called The Long Path, A Journey of Becoming.
This is exciting.
Yep.
I didn't, you have been on twice before and you never mentioned this at all. This is, I don't know if I should be hurt inside or I should be like, wow, this is great. This was very smart by your means.
Did I not mention? I didn't mention it?
Yes, Stosh, I'm going to fact check you on that because
I'd be surprised if I didn't mention it, but it is possible.
Yeah, this morning I re-listened to Kim's interview on episode 87, and she did mention that she had a film crew of 2 people. I think it was from Brooklyn. I forget the name of the crew, but we're going to hear all about that tonight. So she did subtly throw that in towards the end of her interview.
I thought that was kind of like just like I'm sorry, like phones and stuff like that. Like you're documenting the puddles that the crazy puddles you're going through, the amazing nettles that you hit and stuff like that. Like,
no, I remember her talking about one guy with the microphone boom and the other guy carrying the camera. We're going to hear all about it because you forgot some of the interesting things that she mentioned, which I threw into our questions for her, which I think really juices it up. What happened out on the trail and at the convenience store.
Yes. Yeah, I do remember some of that. So
a good teaser. Well, to be fair, I admittedly was probably shy about it when we first talked a while ago, but now I'm learning more about marketing, and you really got to put it out there because we want the film to have a big reach. So yeah, I'm glad we're going to chat about it tonight. I'm excited.
Excellent. I'm excited too. Yeah, definitely. I look forward to this. I'm glad you reached out, definitely, because, previously 2 episodes you have been on and it was a fantastic time. So we can't wait to talk about it again, maybe get a little bit more inside information on what happened. And then, of course, the documentary that hopefully we can help you expand to different areas and get this going because I'm looking forward to it. So
awesome.
Let's start off by congratulating the Appalachian Trail hikers. They're starting. It is April and May. I've seen a bunch of people starting. One of the guys that listened to the show, Long Island hiker, tagged us before. He is starting, so congratulations. Let's go, Long Island hiker. Let's have a good time on the Appalachian Trail. It's, hopefully conditions will be great for you guys in this year. And maybe, I don't think I'm going to be down in the Shenandoahs to maybe greet you on some trail magic, but hopefully all our AT hikers have a successful year and they kick ass. So if you are doing the AT and you listen to the show, tag the show, ITL Catskills Podcast. And then, excuse me, sorry about that.
It must have been one of Kim's cats.
Gee, I'll blame it. Was that your cat?
We can blame it on the cat.
There's a little pregame party going on at Kim's house.
Jesus, I'm so embarrassed. So Appalachian Trail is starting. People are starting to begin on that. So I've heard a bunch of northbound people going. I haven't heard anybody southbound yet. So I'm guessing you don't freaking want to start southbound right now up in the Whites and up in the Maine and the Whites because it's absolutely brutal. And I think Maine is still closed right now. Baxter is only like 2 or 3 permits per day. So cool stuff. I love the Appalachian Trail. I love hearing people's stories, and I follow a bunch of people.
We're going to have to get our buddy, the Long Island hiker, on the show. Sean Connolly. So he's on day 7.
Day 7, yes, that's fantastic. Wow, he's kicking ass. Jesus.
Yeah, actually, today would be day 8 for him if he hiked today. So
okay, cool. Yeah, rip it up, everybody. So this next topic that I have on here now, I was talking about this earlier because one of the guys tagged us. His name was JBlock223. Tagged us in this run that he was doing, or he was preparing for, and I had no clue what it was about. And then I researched it. And Kim, this is all about you and your little trail group, your trail running group, correct?
Yeah, you're referencing the Big Bear Squatch?
Yes.
Yeah, we had that this past weekend on Saturday. It's a half marathon and 10K out of Anthony Wayne Recreation Area at Harriman Bear State Park. So it's Bear Mountain. But yeah, it was great. We had about 200 people come out, and The weather held off. We did a couple of rain dances to keep the weather away, and it was a lot of fun. We had a nice turnout.
What's the stats on that? What's the total distance, elevation gain, stuff like that? Do you have that?
Yeah, the half marathon climbs, it's over 2,000 feet for the half marathon, which is a pretty good climb. And the 10K is a little over 1,000 feet in the 6 miles. So it's not an easy course. The half marathon, the back half of that, which is the 10K course, it hits Cat's Elbow and West Mountain Shelter. So it's very rugged. There's some scrambling, which is fun. We give everybody 6 hours to finish, so plenty of time. It's hiker friendly for people to come out and hike the 10K. But yeah, it went really well. It was a good time.
Do you have results on that? Like who won it, and like maybe top 3, I would say, in your spot, and you can maybe find this guy that JBlock223. I don't know what his real name is, but
yeah, the results just got posted last night. So I know that Justin Lewandowski for the half marathon, he came in first, and he missed the course record by like a minute. He was really close to beating the record, so. Yeah, he was kicking himself at the end. But yeah, we had our top 3. Justin Lewandowski was 1 hour and 48 minutes. And then Chris Jesseman, 1:56. He's in Brooklyn. And Zach Jarvis was 2 hours and 1 minute. And then for the female, first place was 2 hour 14. And then 2:24 and 2:33. So Viviana Hanley, Julie Scheffler, and Christine Meehan. For the half marathon. So pretty fast times for that. It's a rugged technical course, and people were really pushing it out there.
That's cool as heck. Like, so what about this? So I found out his name, Jeffrey Bach. Can you?
Yeah, Jeff Bach.
What did he finish?
He's a SassQuad regular. Let's see what his time was.
I hope this doesn't embarrass you, Jeffrey. Sorry.
Stasha, sorry, I'm not. This is all about him.
Yeah, he was 3 hours 44 minutes for the half marathon. Yeah. So
is that a respectable time? Did Jeffrey do pretty well?
Yeah, I think so. Any time is respectable in my opinion. You know, we give out awards for the top 3 that finish, but personally, I'm not really big on awards. I love the back of packers, and I think they're working harder than probably anybody else out there because they're out there the longest. So
yeah.
Cool. Like I'll have to, maybe next year make this out or whatever. You have any plans on the future of this run? I know you do. What is it called again? SassquatTrail?
SassquadTrail running is the name of the trail race series. Yep.
And how many races do you do per year?
We've got 11 on the calendar, so they're all spread out through northern New Jersey, and we're starting to get more north. We've got 3 events in New York State. So 2 of them are at Harriman State Park. And then our newest one, which is in just 2 weeks, it's at Minnewaska State Park or State Preserve. And it's actually on the long path. So that's it's been a dream race of mine. It's been on the dream board for several years. And we were finally able to work with the park, and they've been wonderful to work with at Minnewaska. They've been very supportive of the event. So we're excited about it. It's actually resurrecting the old Ellenville Mountain Festival that went on for a number of years, led by Ken Posner and Todd Jennings. So those 2 guys have been super supportive, helping me make the connections with permitting, and it sold out in, I think, only a few weeks. It was the fastest sellout. So
Wow.
really excited.
How many people? How many people are going?
Yeah, we were limited to 150. So
Wow.
they're keeping it small, which I think is great. It's a highly sensitive, fragile ecosystem up there. So yeah, it's exciting. We're starting at Berm Road Park in Ellenville, and then basically doing a big lollipop up to High Point and towards the Sam's Point Visitor Center, and it loops back around on the carriage roads.
Wow. Tad, you're more familiar with that area.
Yeah, I know that territory very well. Sounds like a fun event.
It's
very
beautiful, absolutely beautiful up there.
Yeah, it's very scenic and very durable surfaces for these folks to be running on. So, it's appropriate territory for them. And it's also nice to bring some activity like this over to Ellenville, Berm Road.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I know they're trying to revitalize the town, so I'm hoping our event will help with that. The park is super nice. They just renovated it, I think, in the last few years. So it's a really nice staging area for the event.
Nice.
So before or afterwards, you need to swing by Cohen's Bakery.
Okay. Is that in Ellenville?
Yeah, they got some really good stuff there, all made on premises.
All right, I'm gonna email that to our runners. You said Cohen's?
Cohen's Bakery.
All right.
I will tag that as well.
Excellent.
Nice. So, with all the positivity, I hate to bring up this negativity, but it's going to have to be brought up because I wanted to chat about this. So the tariffs are playing a big role on, of course, almost everything here in the United States and other places as well in the world. So they're going to have a big impact, of course, on our gear that we buy. So a lot of the people, Kim, you might know about this because the ultralight gear and stuff like that is imported out of America and stuff. And some of the stuff that I buy, like the Helly Hansen, Fall Raven stuff, Gore-Tex, the merino wool stuff, is going to have a high tariff weight. So now these things are going to be jacked up even more than what they were. So, I mean, we'll talk about this brief because, they're already expensive enough, but they do their job very, very well. I got to admit, my Helly Hansen coat is absolutely phenomenal. My merino wool has kept me freaking warm as heck in there during the cold times. But, this is absolute crazy shit that's happening. And I hate to get my emotions out like that, but come on. What the fuck? Like, yeah, everybody's like silent. Tad's just drinking his... I don't even know what he's drinking. Definitely not.
My Colombian coffee, which is probably subject to a hefty tariff. I don't know. Stash, you said briefly get into it. I don't know if that was your way of verbally signaling me to keep my fucking mouth shut or just to make a couple small comments. But we'll let Kim go first. She can give us her views and insight on tariff and athletic and
I hate to bring this
gear.
political. I'm sorry, Kim. I'm sorry. It's
a reality we're all living in. I know in my industry with events, it's definitely a topic that's coming up. There's a lot of Facebook forums that I'm a part of that are race directors and event organizers. So it's something that people are definitely talking about and trying to plan ahead, knowing that the cost of a lot of things that we use is going to go up. And I think for the most part, a lot of race directors, most of them put the runners first. So you don't want to have to raise prices, but ultimately, I think, like every other industry, that's probably going to be the trickle down effect of us needing to increase prices. But I'll say this: what's happening in the world is bananas. We could use a lot of expletives. So where I've kind of landed on is with SassquadTrail running with our events, trying to make an impact there locally. So we're really expanding a lot of the inclusivity initiatives that we've been working on, but just really putting them out in the open. We're getting a lot more kids to our events. We started a scholarship program that's bringing kids from a city in Jersey, Hackensack, and getting them out to the races. So, we're trying to make an impact in the way that we can and try not to get buried with all the mayhem that's happening because it's pretty overwhelming.
It is. And a lot of the stuff, a lot of people like, of course, American made stuff, but most of our stuff, like the wool and the Gore-Tex stuff like that, has to come from out of this country. Canada, makes, I think Arc'teryx comes from Sweden and then comes over to Canada and then comes into America. Helly Hansen is, I think, Switzerland, I believe, Norway, and then it comes over here. So, like, a lot of this stuff that's durable, reliable and stuff like that come out of here, and it's going to cost us money to get this, even more money than what it is now. And it kind of sucks because I really enjoy my products that I have that come out of, like, Sweden, Switzerland and stuff like that, where they have Norway, where they have been testing this for years and years with freaking climbers and mountaineers and stuff. Like, Ted, I'm sorry to say, but you, Helly Hansen, is your kind of stuff for, like, out in the boating and stuff, rain resistant shit.
Well, one thing I'll say is way back when, before my daughters were born, I was a intense cyclist, did a lot of riding year round, thousands and thousands of miles, and most of my gear from the 90s was made in the States. And I still have a lot of that gear because it was well made back then. Not saying anything bad about foreign made gear presently, but some of these industries are cottage industries. They're small manufacturers. They can be highly portable. Over recent times, it's become really, really easy for them to offshore these jobs to foreign markets, and maybe some of them can be brought back. But I think on a large scale, the prospect of making Apple iPhones in the States, doubtful it's going to happen. It's surely going to take more than 3 or 4 years to happen. So, we're going to go just through a lot of disruption and on a lot of different fronts in the short term. Who knows what the long term is going to bring for this? But in the meantime, the one thing that there still is no tariff on, and that's going out in the woods.
Right.
Whether you're going out in your fancy Gore-Tex pants or in your cutoff blue jeans, you can still go out and hike. You can be like Ken Posner, who's been mentioned a couple times tonight. You can be like Ken and you can go out barefoot.
American made feet.
Yeah. So, we've gotten used to, over recent years, to all this high-end technology. But, back in the day, like when Jim Bouton started hiking in the Catskills, rumor has it, he just had like a buckskin shawl that he would throw over and a club to go bushwhacking. He didn't even have any footwear, and would go out. He was
basically like the first Hobbit.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where Margaret found him, was in this cave up on a plateau, overlooking Older Bark. That's the story I heard. I'm sticking to it. We're not going to fact check it, but yeah, I mean, there's, you obviously you get overwhelmed if you pay attention to all the stuff that's going on now, and that's why, at least for me, I really savor that one day a week that I can just unplug from all this crap and go out into the woods where there's not a lot of sensory overload going on, and you can just, like, unwind, recharge, and there's no tariffs out there.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to bring that up. Once again, hopefully, like, people listen to this podcast and kind of to, like what you said, unplug, unwind and stuff. But it's a reality sometimes, that you have to face. A lot of the stores, around us, like got EMS closed up near me and stuff. So now I got to find my stuff at REI or, an EMS up north, more towards whatever. Or I got to buy them online. So, like, or I can go down to Kenco and stuff like that. But a lot of places don't have the boots that I want or the shoes that I want and stuff. And it sucks. It really sucks. But, if you have the gear that you like, keep it or as long as you can, weatherproof it, stuff like that, until the shit doesn't hit the fan. And we don't know what's coming, and let's just be positive. Wherever we're in the mountains, we always greet each other with joy and stuff like that. I always see smiles on people's faces, except for when, Tad looks back at me when I'm climbing the mountain with him, and he's just like, "Are you going to freaking hurry up?" And I'm just like giving him the finger.
That's right, buddy. Don't you forget that.
It's the only time. Or I see Kim fly by me on the long path and just go, what the hell was that?
Just breezing by. So somewhat in that vein, Stosh meant, checking your gear, preserving your gear. Now's a good time to go through your winter gear before you put it away. Check over the moving parts on your snowshoes, the straps, things that can wear and break. Make sure they're in good condition. If they're not, order your replacement parts now, because in the fall, they could be sold out and back ordered. So get that stuff now. Clean your winter boots and coat them up with either wax or some other waterproofing. So if they're leather, they don't dry out over the summer and they're ready to go in the winter. So preserve and maintain that gear. And if you need replacement gear, don't forget Camp Catskill in Tannersville. You go in there, they've got all the good stuff from, entry level to high end, because it's run by professionals. So shout out to one of our sponsors, Camp Catskill, Tannersville. Good stuff.
Definitely. So excellent. So sorry about that once again. So once again, if anybody needs anything, any advice on products or where to get it, discounts, stuff like that, I will do the research for you 100%. I'll probably ask just AI to do it for me, but
yeah, I'm looking for a new summer backpack. I put mine on this weekend for the first time since the fall, and man, is it worn out and painful. So I forgot.
What is that? Your 10-liter backpack?
I think it's 18. Okay. Thank you. 18 liters. And it was stuffed to the brim this weekend because I didn't know how cold it was going to be. But yeah, it's aching to be replaced. So I started looking around for something.
Kim didn't even have a backpack, basically, right?
Yeah, those trail runners, they have like a water bottle in one hand and a bunch of goos in the other. They're just hammering.
I had a 14-liter hydration pack, but full transparency, my friends were pretty much carrying everything for me.
Hey, it's epic. That's all I got to say. It's epic. And I carry a 55-liter backpack every time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Stosh takes all the gear he has, everything. I think he even brings like a lawnmower with him in case the trail's overgrown.
It's more of a leaf blower. That's what it is.
Solar powered?
Battery.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, excellent. So, yeah, thank you to the monthly supporters, Chris Garbian, Jeff Jotz, Vicky Ferro, Mikey S., John Comiskey, Summit Seekers, Desert City Radio, Betsy A., Denise W., Tom H., Vanessa, Jim C., and Eric. That's just a lot of names, and I thank you guys very much for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. It's a fantastic moment just to hear those names and just to hear people sponsoring the show and believing in the show. I really appreciate it. Also, the sponsors of the show, amazing once again. All the people that believe in us, especially Outdoor Chronicles Photography. So capture your love story against breathtaking backdrops with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Molly specializes in adventure couple photography, and she'll immortalize your moments amidst the stunning landscapes of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and White Mountains. She'll craft timeless images that reflect unique bond in nature's grandeur. Embark on an unforgettable photographic journey with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. Also, discover the wilderness with Trailbound Project. Our expert-led hiking and backpacking education programs offer unparalleled outdoor experiences. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned adventurer, join us to learn essential skills, explore stunning trails, and connect with nature. Start your journey today with Trailbound Project and unlock the wonders of the great outdoors. They have a lot of stuff going on, like wilderness first aid, wilderness survival, tarp shelter building, bear encounters, training, stuff like that. So get a hold of Trailbound Project if you want to learn a lot of stuff about the outdoors. So, hard ciders. We got some people who gave some hard ciders, which is pretty fantastic. And mentions, well, back up, Stosh. Jesus. Mentions. God, I'm going a little bit too far on this. So, mention the podcast on one of your hikes through social media, and we'll chat about it on the show. Tag at ITL Catskill Podcast. We'll chat about these shows. So once again, Long Island Hiker just started the AT, and this was 7 days ago, so it was a week ago when I knew about this. So congratulations, Long Island Hiker. rip it up on the Appalachian Trail. Keep your updates and tag us once in a great while if you want to. Also, Pink Pony Tracy was at Overlook Mountain. Tad, you were close to this, weren't you? You kind of saw this. Did you actually go up to Overlook?
I did. I went up to Overlook.
No, but I gotta admit, you went up the other way. You went up the chosen way, right?
Well, I did an out and back from whatever road that is out of Woodstock. But I did. Yeah, I did a little exploration. I did some off trail work. I got around. I made it a fun hike.
I thought you went to Echo Lake.
Oh yeah, I went all the way out to Echo Lake and Codfish Quarry.
Oh, so that's from the pictures. It did not look like you came from the whatever road that you're right. The parking area. I thought you came from the Platte Hill Reserve area.
No.
Oh, damn. Wow. Oh, I can't wait to hear this. Oh, nice. So also Tom Hoos did a bushwhack up to Giant Ledge and Panther. I thought that was a pretty nice route. I've been up through there before. Mm-hmm. Fantastic overlook looking towards the back area of Giant Ledge and Panther. Nice little bushwhack route. Have you ever been up that sort of arm? It's a weird arm. It's a weird arm off of Panther.
Yeah, I've been up that particular ridge he went up in Brook. I have gone up. He actually asked me for some intel on that. And then, so I've been up that way. I've been up the Brook, which has a nice bark road off to the south off the Brook. And then I've also I went to do the Brook again this winter. Water was too high, so I just departed and made a beeline towards Giant Ledge proper. All three of those hikes were exceptional.
Does that have a proper name, or is it
it's Cascade Brook?
Cascade Brook, and that leads right down to the Esopus, right? The start of or not the Esopus. Is it?
Yes, it's the Esopus.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, just downstream from Winnisook Lake. My first time up through there was with none other than Danny Davis. And,
of course.
Yeah, it was just like an endless stream of very interesting information from consolidated and unconsolidated glacial till to, just small landslides, the whole 9 yards. It was just a very, when the bedrock that's down there. There's certain things I don't think Tom, he didn't post photos of them, but there's some really interesting stuff down there. You'll have to go down and discover it. I'm not going to tell you about it, but yeah, that whole corridor is a lot of fun.
That whole Panther Mountain area is just great exploration.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I bushwhacked Panther from different directions. I got a few more on the hit list, but it's a lot of fun hitting Panther. There's also I've done it bushwhacked all the way in from 28. That was probably one of the most boring bushwhacks I've ever done. But
what do you? Oh, 28. Oh, so you're talking about like down from Fox, kind of adjoining with Fox Hollow?
Yeah, it's a little bit further west than Fox Hollow. It's not that far after, what is it, Route 42 or 43, the road that goes out to Giant Ledge proper. But just a little bit east from there is a parking area. And it was some rather typical logged out terrain. And then it just got really, really boring for a while. And then once you meet up with the higher elevation above, say, 2,900 feet, it gets interesting again. But it was kind of a long stretch there that I wondered why I was doing it. But I had no choice to finish because the Jeep was at the other end of the hike. I couldn't go back down to the bike and get back to the Jeep. So
damn, it's a nice thing. So Tom, once again, was up at Giant Ledge and Panther. Now, a new person tagged us. Catskill Mountains hiker is closing in on the 3,500 and did Big Indian to Fur. Now, he was talking to me, and he did, when he went from Big Indian to Fur, instead of doing the traditional route of kind of like the arm that goes into the call, he just dipped right from Big Indian into the creek and then went straight up the Fur. And I was like, oh, ballsy. That's ballsy. And then he said it was very thick and just was crazy to explore, but they had a good time.
Yeah, I've actually I've bushwhacked Big Indian through that we'll call
Nice.
it area. Yeah, that drainage area. It's actually nice. There's a nice hemlock grove in there and some old growth.
Yeah.
But I can imagine the whack backup fir is full of a lot of talus.
Yeah, it's good steep stuff, I gotta admit. So awesome. Thank you everyone who has tagged us in the show once again. Tag us at ITL Catskills Podcast. So Kim's got to do that a little bit more often. No, I don't. Just you do your thing, Kim. Sorry to once again drag you in on this. Have you done any of those hikes? Are you a bushwhacker yet?
I do not enjoy bushwhacking, to be totally
Okay,
honest.
okay.
Which is why I probably will never get the 3,500. I've done, I think, all the other ones except for I've done a couple of the bushwhacks, but
You'll be fine.
I don't. Yeah, I know. That's what everybody says.
If you've gone through the craziness of the Nettles during the long path, this is nothing for you.
That's true.
Unless you choose to do what Tad and I do and choose the long way and the most brutal way, I would say. So,
Yeah, I'll pass on that
you
one.
got
but
it. We'll take you out on an exploration that you'll never forget.
we should go out sometime. That would be fun to go out with you guys.
She'll fly up the mountain. She'll be like, "Where the hell are you?"
Game on. We can do it. We'll have fun.
Yeah. So excellent. Once again, thank you for everyone tagging us. So also you can buy us a hard cider to support the show. You'll support the show and you'll support the Catskills because we take whatever we don't use and donate it back in the Catskills. So Rachel Jean bought us 5 hard ciders and she wrote this and it, like, seriously, I was just like, I saw this and I just like, my heart was so filled. So she said, longtime listener and first time caller, you two have such a dynamic. I laugh so hard each week and I look forward to Friday. Stash, you solidified my love in the heart in the Catskills. I hiked and I was doing my 3,500, but you made me fall so much further in love with this region. All the history, all your interviewees have changed the course of how I enjoy the state I was born in. The community is deeply strong with you guys in it, and I'm happy you're here. Thanks again. So, Rachel Jean, that just fills my heart. And, once again, that kind of makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing and I'm sticking to this. And we are making an impact here on the Catskills. So, I mean, if we're having Kim on here for the 3rd time, we got to have an impact, right? If she's asking us to come back on, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's really powerful. Her feedback there. That's got to feel good for you guys.
It does.
Yeah. Even though she doesn't mention me by name,
nice.
That's all right. I don't feel slighted in the least because we have Kim here tonight, and Kim is a real mover and shaker in the trail running community. So that makes up for it. Rachel Jean, thanks.
She's gonna hate me. I'm gonna get some bad messages.
She's gonna take back her 5 ciders.
Yeah, give it back to me. So thank you once again, Rachel Jean. I really appreciate it. So also rate the show on any platform you can. Also vote for us in the Corona Grammys. This is like big stuff. We're in the finals. You go to the arts and entertainment section. Best regional podcast. Vote for us each day, every day up until I think it's May 15th, May 18th.
That's right. Definitely.
I got it right. So Tad and I will be posting daily stories to our Instagrams, and we'll post links that you can just go directly to it. I think all you have to do is enter an email, and they won't send spam or anything.
Yeah. So the first time you vote, you need to register by giving them your email address, and then you go to your email account, you click the link, and you get to vote, and it will take you right to when you sign in and you go through the whole process initially. Once you hit that link, it's going to take you right back to Arts Entertainment, Best Regional Podcast, and then you can click and vote for us as you should. And then you just copy that link. I put mine on my bookmark bar. And so every day, every morning when my cat Mickey and I are having our morning cup of coffee, we vote together. I should sign Mickey up for his own email account so he can vote and be part of the fun. Maybe train him with some treats so he can learn how to, click the mouse with his paw. So I think that's legal, isn't it? Doesn't say you have to be human to vote. You just have to have an email account.
Correct.
Yeah. So
there you go.
And there's no tariffs involved. It's not taxed. It's not tariffed. You get to vote for free. So vote once a day, twice a day, 500 times a day, stuff the ballot box.
Yeah.
Our egos deserve it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's like I pointed this out. I sent an email out to everybody that like it's just we're the big underdogs in this. I got to admit, like all these other like podcasts are located in the Orange County and below, which is a city, and none of it really has to do with hiking and stuff. So, but I got to admit, we're the funnest. I'd have to say we're the funnest. Just
like Rachel Jean said. I mean, she gave us she gave you that stellar endorsement. And yeah, and it got you 5 hard ciders. So, just take her words of recommendation and vote. The best part about it, if we win, as we should, is the other top contenders in the bracket, the other three of the 5 that made it are really like professional, full-time arts and entertainment people, highly organized. And even though Stosh puts in a lot of time and I just sit here every Tuesday night and wing it, we're kind of a low budget operation, and it'd be just nice to, take those guys out.
Bushwhack for fun.
Bushwhack them. Let's just bushwhack them. Right.
Yeah, and we do it for fun.
Yeah, give me the old Sasquatch treatment.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. So vote, please. That would be fantastic to get this win.
And the other people don't believe in mountain lions, and that's a reason not to vote for them. Okay.
Yeah, and we've already talked about them many times. Yeah. I don't know if Kim got chased by them, and that's why she set the FKT for the long path. We don't know. We'll only find out on the documentary.
Yeah, you'll have to watch. Yeah,
that's
especially
right.
The night episodes, where you see those eyes in the background and the growling, the roar.
Yeah, those aren't cats back there. Those are mountain lions.
Yeah.
Definitely mountain lions.
All right. Anybody drinking anything tonight besides me? Tad, that you did the Tuesday. So I like
that was last week. So.
Yeah, that was last week.
Yeah. So I've got another Westkill Brewery Mountain Life. It's the last in the 4-pack. I'm ready to do the crack. You all set? Kim, you got to. This is why you can tell that we really are professional. You ready?
I'm ready.
That sounded good.
How was that? Yeah.
Kim, you got anything?
Better.
I guess some decaf green tea. Yeah.
All right.
What's the alcohol content on that?
Definitely 0. I don't drink. I run too much.
Good for you.
You run too much. That's true. All right, hold on. So, all right, Tad, I am turning this off. I think so. So,
there you go.
Okay.
You got your click or crack game going on. It worked tonight.
It worked. So, I'm having a Hudson North blueberry lemonade. So, supporting local, they do a lot of local stuff for trails and stuff like that. I actually had reached out to them to hopefully get them on the show because they're good stuff. So
yeah. So that's tariff free if it's from Hudson. No tariff on that. Yeah.
Jesus, why do you got to bring that up? Jesus,
same thing
this
here.
Is triggered.
Yeah. My Westkill is also a tariff free beverage.
Support local.
Yeah. What about you, Kim? Is yours a tariff free or is that an import?
That's a great question. I don't know where the green tea. I'll have to look on the box.
Yeah.
See where it came from.
This time next year, it could be 3 times more expensive.
That's right.
You're going to have to harvest your own green tea.
Yeah, you'll be drinking ShopRite brand like May and Stosh.
I am drinking ShopRite brand.
Kim, we're all going to be doing our own stuff in our backyards. We're not going to have backyards. We're going to have all gardens in our backyards. We're going to be our own
Love
shit.
it.
We're going back to the 1900s now, and we're going to start doing the Hardenberg patent and stuff like that. We're all on our own.
Perfect.
So, all right. So previous hikes, Kim, I mean, you talked about your race. Were you involved in that race? Let's hear about it.
Yeah, I'm in charge on race day, so I don't get to go out on the course unless there was an emergency, but thankfully everyone was safe. So busy supervising and organizing volunteers and keeping everything in line. So
did you do anything before that you want to chat about?
Yeah, I went out to I had my first Catskill hike of the season the week before. I went up to Peak Moose did an out and back there. Turned around once I started hitting some ice towards Table. And then I was with a friend and we said, let's go up Bengal Hill. And I hadn't been there since the Long Path FKT. I have zero memory of how tough that climb is. I think honestly, I think I blocked it out. It is so steep, that climb. It's unreal how tough that climb was. The whole time last week, I was just like, I can't believe how hard this is. I don't remember any of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I did that, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago. I didn't run up it. And
we weren't running. Definitely weren't running.
Yeah. There's not a single switchback.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the Stairmaster hike, from the road up to the Bengal Hill. And did you see any evidence of the fire that was in there in the fall?
Yeah. I was also shocked about that. I mean, the burns are still there. You could still smell it. You could smell the ash. So that was pretty wild to see that. But it's amazing how the trail was pretty much the burn line. It cut off the fire. The fire stopped at the trail. So
yeah, apparently further up the mountain, the fire did jump the trail.
Okay.
When I was up there, I wasn't aware of that. There was still snow on the ground. I didn't see much of the charring. But I have to say, when I went through there, there was just this really weird, eerie appearance as you looked uphill and up towards Bengal Hill, because it was obvious there was no small growth.
Yes.
There. All that was gone. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kim, you're right. That Bengal Hill, I did that with my wife and my nephew, who was like 12 years old. And I got to admit, they banged that out pretty good. And I was just like, it's not bad. But it is quite a bit of gain in a short amount of time. It's just straight up, like Tad said, Stairmaster. So that's good. What was your time? Do you remember your time on Peekamoose coming back?
Oh, no.
Was that a hike or was that a run?
Hiking. Yeah, we hiked up and then kind of jogged down. I mean, it's pretty steep in some sections, so you're not jogging the whole time. But it was great. It was so great to be back up there for the year. So it was nice. Hopefully, and I think it seems like things are melting. So hopefully we've crossed over into the nice weather next week.
You'll hear about it today. There's a whole different story today.
Oh, did you guys get some weather up there?
Oh, I'll tell you in a second. So
okay,
it'll be good. So, Ted, how about you, sir? I'll tell you about my awesome exploration that I had today. So, in a little bit, you tell you about your exploration.
Yeah,
Sunday, you went Sunday. Damn it.
Yeah. So I last weekend I did not hike because I had my 3-day excursion with Mount COVID. And so this weekend was looking for something, that would kind of get me back into the hiking regiment again. And with all the rain on Saturday, I decided not to go out on Saturday. And I was planning on a relatively interesting bushwhack for Sunday, but it started raining, say around 4:00 a.m. here, and was going to be raining in the Catskills as well. So when I did set out on my drive over, I'm like going through my mind, what would I like to do? And I didn't want to do this bushwhack because I figured it was just going to be all wet there, and it was raining on my way over. So I decided, of all things, to go to Woodstock, to drive up to the trailhead for Overlook. And my sense is that the hike up to Overlook was going to be on really durable, well-wearing surfaces, so it wouldn't be an issue that we got all this rain recently. And one of the sections of trail that is undone for my All Trails Challenge is from that trailhead going to Overlook all the way out to Codfish Quarry, and also that little spur down to Echo Lake. So literally, as I'm getting into Woodstock, I still had my wipers on, finally turned them off as I'm driving up to that trailhead. I get to the trailhead. There were some people waiting in their cars, for things to dry up. And I get out, throw on my gear, set out, and all the way out, I just hiked straight out to Echo Lake initially, didn't go up to the fire tower, get to the turnoff for Echo Lake. That's where I ran into my first group of people for the day. It was a couple. They spent the night at Echo Lake camping. And so I went down to the lake. It's interesting and worthwhile. And even on a overcast, low fog cloud ceiling day, pretty scenic down there. So I checked out the lake. Then I got back out to the turnpike, as they call it. And I went out to Codfish Point, which I had been to before, but I needed that section of trail. Didn't see a single soul all the way out to Codfish Point, which now brings me to that part of my story where I ask Stosh, how did Codfish Quarry get its name? Do you know? Kim, if you can do like the spoof Stump You game show music for me in the background, right? Stosh, how did Codfish Quarry get its name? He's looking either bored out of his mind or stumped. I can't tell.
Stumped. I'm stumped. Okay.
What do you say?
I mean, that we're looking at Codfish, so the Devil's Kitchen is right there. So, well, somewhat. So, I mean, that's a whole bunch of quarries in that one little relevant area of that ship down to New York City. I know there's at least 4 or 5 different quarries in there. So
it's nonstop quarry action. So according to the DEC unit management plan for this area of the park, it reads as follows. The remains of a major quarrying operation is still evident on and below the Echo Lake Platte Cove Trail on the east face of Plattekill Mountain. This point, where the trail intersects the quarry, is known as Codfish Point. The most common explanation of this unique name goes back to the quarrymen who devoured many crates of codfish. One fall, an early snowstorm stranded the workers whose only edible provision at the time were crates of codfish. As the crates were emptied, the wooden crate lids were nailed to trees as evidence of the quarrymen's aggravation and need for food. According to the DEC unit management plan, Codfish Quarry or Codfish Point got its name from some quarry workers who were stranded in an early snowstorm.
So this proves, Tad, that you just not join here on Tuesdays and do your stuff. You actually do some background to this.
Yeah, I told you I'm a highly paid podcast professional now. I'm closing in on the heels of Joe Rogan. I think we probably only have a few million listeners less than him, right? How many do you have? Like 1 or 2, 3 million? And we're closing in on a dozen, I think. So we're narrowing the gap, as Kim says, when you're out trail running.
Absolutely.
We're reeling him in like a codfish.
That's right.
That's super cool,
Joe,
man.
You watch out, Joe. We're coming to get you. Best regional podcast this year. Next year, best podcast of the universe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Echo Lake is a very unique spot. I really want to spend the night there because I've heard horror stories and great stories about
horror stories. In what way?
In what way that there's a lot of mice and rats.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then the beavers come out at night and they're like chomping on stuff, and it makes you like think that there's like ghosts out there and stuff. I've heard some really crazy stories about there.
Yeah, well, maybe you just need a few more hard ciders before you go to bed at night, then, Stosh. Take care of all the hooting and hollering and beaver stomping at night with, maybe Rachel Jean should get you another 5-pack of ciders before you go backpacking again, and that'll take you. But I bet you listen. When you go camping, you bring your ear pods or something. Don't you?
Do. I need that ambient sound of air,
of nature. Right. That's why Stosh goes backpacking, is to listen, bring his ear pods.
Trust me. I have sleeping issues. So if I don't hear anything, I will hear everything, and it'll bother me. It's so weird.
Yeah. When I go to bed, I transform into a metamorphic rock.
Well, good for you. That's fantastic. So, Campbell, hopefully you'll talk about this. What about you? Did you ever sleep on the long path at least like 2 hours, right? Not even?
Yeah, physically on trail, there were a few dirt naps, but they weren't very long.
Yeah. How did you do you need anything to fall asleep, or at that time you were so exhausted you just kind of passed out and face in the dirt?
Yeah, it was amazing how quickly you drop into REM sleep. You know that feeling where your body feels like it's dropping? That it would happen instantaneously.
Wow. That's crazy. So Tad, do you say that you did not go up to overlook like Fire Tower?
No, so on the way back, I did my hike all the way out to Echo Lake, then Codfish Point or Codfish Quarry. On the way back, I'm on the trail again. I get to the point where the trail's going to go around Overlook Mountain. I decide just to go straight up Overlook from that, I guess, the north side. It was relatively low intensity bushwhack up there. Got to a couple interesting clearings. Then I made my way over to where, of all things, they have that picnic table right on the escarpment. You know, I really couldn't so much gauge the view from there because just the low ceiling or the fog that was lingering around. But then I made my way over to the fire tower. There was just a few people there. Let me throw in, while it's on my mind, the one thing that really impressed me is that hike from the trailhead up to Overlook. I got to say, I really struggled to find 5 things on the trail to put in my backpack. I mean, it was just a really, really low level of trail trash. But the view from the tower was pretty cool. But let me say this. I left the house. I wasn't planning to do this hike. I kind of midway decided this is what made sense for the day. And I got, relative to other people, an early start. There was just a really low ceiling at the time, just a lot of fog in the air. I'm trying to go uphill, Overlook like Kim would go uphill, except she's probably doing like 7 or 8 miles an hour. I'm doing just right around 2 miles an hour.
Definitely not.
Yeah. But I take that one little spur that goes out towards the edge of the escarpment where there's a lot of old abandoned buildings over there. I don't know if you know those. You probably do because you've spent some time there. Then I get back on the main trail. And what is it that I totally had forgotten about? But as I'm huffing and puffing uphill in the fog, all of a sudden I see what?
The ruins.
Yes, I completely forgot about the Overlook Motel up there. And next thing I know, it's like, because I'm not expecting it. There's like this mammoth building up there. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. This is up here. So that was kind of a cool surprise, to be surprised by something that everybody else knows and expects to see on their way up. I had forgotten about it. So that was fairly cool. It's an interesting thing. It's nice that it's still intact, where some of these other big, old Catskill hotels, or like, the Catskill one and the Mountain House are gone. This is still there, which is neat. And then you try to figure out what some of the outbuildings were for, which came first, things of that nature. And I don't know if you're like me, but as I'm hiking up that trail and I see the entrance area, I try to imagine like, a family from New York City over 100 years ago, plus, coming up on like a stagecoach or something, with all the excitement of they're out of the city. This is their week or 2-week vacation up here. They've read about it, but, they don't see real pictures back then because they don't even have cameras. I don't know how people got by without Instagram, but they managed. So. Yeah, so
Right.
overall it was a cool hike. I can see why people like it. There's a lot of variation. Up until the tower itself, the condition of the trail is, very smooth and easy. And then from the mountain itself, going down towards Echo Lake, it becomes your typical rocky, rooted, rutted, Catskill quarry road trail. And then there's like some nice sections, which I posted those pictures, from Echo Lake over to Codfish Point, which reminds me, Stosh, do you know how it got its name? Codfish Point?
I remember.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Quiz at the end of the show.
Yes. So awesome.
All right, Stosh, tell us about your day. Rumor has it there was some snow where you were.
I got to chug this hard cider. No, I'm just kidding. So I had the intention I was just like, I don't have much time. I have to get my car inspected, got to get the winter tires off and stuff. So I'm like, I will go close to me and stuff like that. I was thinking Bear Pen maybe, but then I was like, oh, Round Top. like up north, the North Round Top, right near Bear Pen. I'll go up there. I know of a viewpoint that my friend talked about before, and I was just like, I will go do that. You know, I'm on my way there, and it's like 28 degrees. I'm like, cool. This is like winter again. We have a little bit of flurries happening. And then when I get around Stanford, around Mount Lenciata, there's, I wouldn't say massive amount of snow around on the ground, but the roads are covered. And I'm just like, this is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting. And then when I hit over to Prattsville, Grand Gorge, there's no snow. So I'm like, interesting. There must be like a weird like squall coming in, a certain jet stream and stuff like that. So I hit Prattsville, I go up, and I park at the end of what they call Ski Run Road. It used to be where they would take people from Bear Pen, or from the road up to Bear Pen Mountain on trucks just to ski and stuff like that. And it was pretty cool to kind of like picture that in my mind the whole way going up. Like, man, so you're not hiking up this, but you're taking in the back of a truck going all the way up to the top of Bear Pen Mountain. Absolutely cool as heck. Looking to the left and right, I found a few old foundations that I took pictures of. I see all these amazing little creeks that are forming off the side of the mountain in the middle of nowhere. It's pretty neat. And they have 2 parking spots. You can park way up on the Ski Run Road, but I highly doubt anybody, even with like a 4-wheel drive, I don't think your Jeep could fit up through this. The beginning of it is trashed now.
Oh, I'm sure my Jeep could get up through there.
This, I don't know, man. This has had some, in the beginning, after the beginning, it has been, it's nice. It's like groomed. Like I'm sorry to say, the Tesla could fit up through there. There's just a little couple bumps, but in the beginning, it looks like floods have hit it, and it's just lopsided like crazy. So easy hike all the way up to the call of North Bear Pen and Round Top. And once I get up to like 3,000 feet, there's some snow. And then all of a sudden, when I get up to the call, it's just all on winter, inch and a half of snow, wind, snow's coming down. I'm just like, oh, this is absolutely stunning. Everybody would be like, I'm sick and tired of this shit. I'm getting sick and tired of the cold, and I'm just here enjoying everything because there's just wind everywhere. There's gust. There's just massive sounds here and there, and I am all in the element of I'm alone. Nobody is near me, and it's just fantastic. So I go up, I take a right, I summit Round Top, and then I go back down, and there's this viewpoint that my friend James found, and it's been there for a long time. I'm guessing because it looks like it was clear cut, and he calls that the $1 million viewpoint, and it overlooks Bear Pen. It's like, I would say southwest. That's going into the town of Vega and stuff like that, and it's absolutely stunning. I was there for like, I would say 20 minutes dipping in and back and forth of the trees because it was just so windy, just 20 mile per hour wind constant, and then 40, 50 mile an hour gust. Just absolutely beautiful with an inch and a half of snow. I was just flabbergasted by, like, one side I could see just squalls all over the place. The other side, I turn around and there's blue skies. And I'm just like, what the hell's going on? I saw a little bit of Plattekill ski center when I came back down on the side of the mountain. And then I was just like, okay, maybe I'll explore the other side of Round Top. I'll bushwhack a little bit, see if I can find a viewpoint. I found viewpoints, but there was no, like, it was covered full in squalls. I got hit back and forth with these awesome wind-driven snow squalls. And I was happy as heck and not cold at all. You know, took me, I'm going to start submitting fastest known times for these places because I don't see any of these, and I'm just going to be like, I did this in 2 hours 45 minutes, screw you, fastest known time ever. And then somebody's going to kick my ass. But other than that, no spikes needed. I didn't do any spikes at all, but I got some views here and there, and just one of those times of where you're standing there, and seriously, I know this sounds weird, but like, I stood there and closed my eyes, and that sound of the wind gushing over like Bear Pen and North Bear Pen and stuff. There is that little cirque that it must hit, where it just hits the top of the trees and comes back down, because I had no wind at all where I was standing, but you could hear the wind freaking roaring on the mountains, and I was just in the element of, goddamn, I could die here and it would be nice. Like, I mean,
we're glad you didn't die there and you made it back.
Yeah.
that sounds horrible. Doesn't that sound horrible though? But like, just
so when you're on Round Top, did you do the dog leg to the southwest, or did you just go to the kind of the summit proper itself?
Proper summit, and then I dipped down west.
Okay.
And to the other area, I stayed on the state property.
Yeah. I was there maybe 3 summers ago, and I seem to remember that clearing that you're referring to that's off to the southwest or southern face of it.
Worth it.
Yeah. The other thing is, you're going up Ski Run Road, is you're going around that bend where it bends towards the southeast. There used to be a ski area in there called the No Name Ski Area. Did you know that?
That's towards more of the Plattekill. Well, not Plattekill, but North Bearpen side, right?
Yes.
Okay. I got to explore that. Yeah.
Yeah. That on the inside of that bend, there was a ski area in there. And I think those folks kind of had a little influence with Percy Goff.
Joff, whatever that is.
The fellow that shut down Bear Pen.
That freaking son of a bitch.
Yeah. Well, really. I don't know. In retrospect, it's kind of nice that Bear Pen never went into private, or, didn't stay in private ownership, that the ski area didn't make a lot of traction, and now it's owned by the state.
Yeah.
So it gives backcountry skiers a place to go and do some backcountry skiing, and there's not like 5,000 condominiums, townhouses, and other things in that area.
Yeah.
So, but that's a cool hike.
Yeah, I had a fantastic. It's easy. Anybody could do it. I just have your GPS and your way up, because I mean, it's not hard to lose. It's not hard to lose where you're at all. But there's a lot of different turn sections for the snowmobiles and stuff. And they say no motorized vehicles, but I saw remnants of ATVs and stuff like that. Of course, they abuse that.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. I got to admit, Tad, I'm thinking that would be a great place to start, like a social hike for us to get to this.
Ski Run Road?
Yeah. There's a nice parking area. There's a good parking and stuff like that. And then it's just a nice casual hike up to the top. Yeah. And we get to that viewpoint. People can complete their Catskills 100 highest and stuff.
I don't think the 100 highest is a task worth going after. I think
private properties.
Yeah. I think the list that Margaret McGrath put together is probably a better list. A lot of these mountains, the 100 highest, are, in my view, just kind of like low intensity areas. They've been heavily logged over the years, and there's really not that much to see up there.
True.
A lot of them are the same. But I'll say this: that hike you did, I continued that hike all the way over to Hawkett when I did it.
I was thinking about it, but I didn't have the time. So
yeah. For me, it was a long day, but yeah.
I wanted to.
Interesting ridge.
We'll do it. We'll definitely do it sometime. I want to get on to Kim. So
yeah, let's do Kim.
Yeah, so let's Catskill News. Once again, volunteer 3,500 Club Trail Crew, Catskill Mountains Club Visitor Center, and Jolly Rovers Trail Crew, Brently Mountain Fire Tower. If you need stickers, let me know, or go to Camp Catskill. So weather forecast, once again, this is Tuesday. So it looks like Friday, high of 34, a low of 19, with snow showers here and there. It says Friday evening, 3.5 inches of snow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is Hunter Mountain, so I'm going with the heart, kind of like the heart of the Catskills. So 3.5 inches of snow, and then it looks like a little bit of rain later on. So it's definitely a shit show. And then Saturday morning, a high of 39, a low of 36. So not really any wind, but some rain here and there, with a rain total looks like an inch of rain. with cloudy skies all day, each and every day, Friday through Sunday. A high of 36 on Sunday, a low of 18 with wind chill at night. So each and everything, snowshoes, I don't think it's going to be needed. Again, you never know, but I would pack the spikes because there might be a spine that has some ice on it and stuff like that. With the higher peaks, the higher elevations, the bigger ascents, you will have ice. So pack your ice. Or pack your spikes. Jesus. All right, so let's get on to the last set of sponsors, and we'll get on to Kim. So discover Camp Catskill in Tannersville, your ultimate hiking store. Find top quality gear, apparel, and accessories for all your outdoor adventures. Our expert staff is here to help every hiker from beginner to seasoned pros. We also carry a variety of unique Catskill souvenirs and gifts. Visit us online at campcatskill.co or in the store to gear up for your next journey. Adventure starts at Camp Catskill. Also embark on a transformative journey with Another Summit. Another Summit is dedicated to serving veterans and first responders with free outdoor activities. Activities like walks in nature, paddling, hiking, and even backpacking. Join our supportive community to rejuvenate in nature's embrace. Experience camaraderie, adventure, and healing at no cost. Take your next step with Another Summit and descend to new heights of resilience and joy. Apply today at anothersummit.org. All right. So let's get on to the guest of the night.
Let's go.
So tonight, Kim Levinsky joins us to talk about her long path experience and her amazing long path documentary that is coming out. And we can't wait for it. I can't wait to see it. Especially with she's been on here for 2 episodes before. So this is her 3rd episode. I think you might be catching up with Matt Smith with most episodes on here. So you might be in the lead with him.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I think he's been on here for 3 episodes, maybe 4, but I'm pretty sure you might be with him.
Oh, shoot.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So check out previous episodes 71 and 87. So 71, she was talking about how she's going to attempt to do the fastest known time on the long path. And then on 87, where after she completed it and did the fastest known time on there. So we've heard a little bit, but still, give us a background about yourself, Kim, for the listeners.
Sure, yeah. Kim Levinsky, I am the owner and race director for SassquadTrail running. So as I mentioned before, we put on trail events throughout northern New Jersey and up into the Hudson Highlands of New York. So we got about 11 races a month, 11 races a year, ranging from 5K up to 100 miles. We have a 100-miler in September at Waiwayaunda State Park in Hewitt, New Jersey. So that's my full-time gig. I love it. It's an awesome profession. I meet so many amazing people through the races, and that keeps me pretty busy. I mean, I love the trails, obviously, so like to get out as much as I can, and I'm lucky that I get able to do it for my job as well. So
you're a kind of experienced trail runner, of course. Like you do this kind of for a living.
Yeah, I mean, not a professional athlete by any stretch, but an event organizer. So with the trail races, they're open to hikers, open to trail runners. At SassQuad, we attract a lot of new people. So people who are either just trying trails, either running or hiking for the first time, or maybe they're a road runner and they're trying out the trails. So it's cool. It's a really neat space to be in. And like I said, just met some amazing people through it.
Yeah, I got to admit the community here with the Hudson Valley and the Catskills is tight. Mm-hmm. And, we don't like kind of, I wouldn't say judge people, but we kind of like help each other out. Yeah. Whether you're a beginner and trail running and stuff. I never have the thought of trail running because my knees are going to freaking break when I run. I jog down the trail sometimes, and that's like 15 feet. And I'm like, oh, you're going a little bit too much. So like, it's just like you guys help each other out, of course. Kim, I hate to ask this, but how old are you?
At 36, almost 37, couple weeks.
Jesus Christ. All right. You told me I would have said like 25, maybe 27.
Well, you can zoom in. I've got enough gray hairs if you zoom in.
I can't tell. You can see this whole beard is gray. So 36 years old. 2 years ago, you set the fastest known time for the women's attempt on the long path. So you were 34 years old. Wow. That's very impressive. Like these guys like Jason Lang and Joshua Reed are setting these at young ages. And you're 34 years old ripping it up on a 358-mile trail. Do you want to like talk about your time and 358 miles? What was your time on this?
Yeah, it took me about 9 days and 10 hours to go southbound. So I started up at John Thatcher State Park and ended over the GWV into New York City. So yeah, just about 9.5 days. And I'm sure we'll chat about it, but the weather was a really big variable. I mean, I was the knucklehead who chose July to do it. It was not the best month, but that just worked. It worked best with my schedule. And there were some challenging weather conditions, but yeah, it was wild. 9.5 days.
Jesus. 9.5 days to do 358 miles. Good God, if you could see my face right now. And Tad's just like, yeah, I could pound that out in 6 days.
That's crazy. So I remember, Kim, first of all, I remember listening to your episode number 87 when it aired the first time. And then Stosh and I had Chris LeBlanc on the show a while back. And Chris set the first recorded fastest known time for an unsupported traverse of the long path. And then I reflected on your excursion, and you had a 23-foot rented RV, right? That's tagged along, right?
Yeah,
and Chris was like thinking about sleeping in porta potties and, like crawling up under picnic benches and stuff like that. So to what extent, I mean, can you compare? Have you ever done an unsupported, like multi-day fastest known time?
No, not unsupported. No.
Yeah.
The other efforts I've done, the Hudson Highlands Hellhole Hundo, which we talked about.
Yeah.
That was supported. So, I mean, I personally love the community aspect of those types of experiences. I mean, I do enjoy the solo time, but something of that magnitude, it was cool to be able to share it with people. I mean, the two are just so different. I'm sure Chris had some really transformative experiences out there by himself. They're just two different ways of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when we were talking to him, I could not get my arms around comprehending why he would do that. Okay, it just
right?
Whether it was 9 days, 19 days, or however, it just seemed like a true suffer fest. But I remember, had remembered at the time, and then this morning when I listened to number 87 over, one of the things that I took away from your excursion was that it was more like a community or group effort, a lot of camaraderie and friendship and growth with other people on your 9-day excursion. Do I get that right? Yeah,
for sure. And it's, the documentary definitely captures that. It was, there were over 20 friends that came out over the course of the 9.5 days. And that ranged from people who were actually on trail with me to, doing supply runs, picking up food, shuttling pacers because it's point to point. So people needed to get a ride back to wherever they parked. So there was so many people involved in the effort, it was really special.
Yeah. And that comes through in the documentary, the group effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so who was coordinating the support team? Was there somebody in charge of all that for you?
Yeah, I mean, the logistics leading up to the event, I was kind of the quarterback of it with organizing. There was that huge spreadsheet that I put together. And, what I've learned with these things is the more you can be organized and on top of details ahead of time, the better off you're going to be, because shit will hit the fan. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So pretty much, I put together binders for people, for the crew, and it had all the information in there. So once I started, that all got passed off to my friends. So there were two women who were there for, I think it was basically like 7 or 8 of the days. So they kind of took the lead with with that once I started on trail.
Wow. So 9 days, 50 minutes. So even with, so it's like, that's just unbelievable, just amount of time. And, once again, you said the community, the support you had and the motivation, once like with you dealing with 87, I remember talking about like just weather was not on your side, was just always hampering your time, not your times, but your spirits and stuff like that. The nettles, I remember that you talked about, was just absolutely insane. Other things that we'll talk about in a second. So could you tell me, with the 358 miles, what was the worst time that you had on there? And is this in the documentary?
The worst time. I guess what flavor of the worst will you choose from? I mean, the northern section of the long path, pretty much up until you got to the Catskills, a lot of it was overgrown. Yeah, we talked about the nettles already, but that was tough. I mean, that was tough to be slugging through a field of stinging nettles and just having, you're already in some discomfort, and then to have nettles that are up to your knees going on for 100 feet. They were screaming, they were swearing, but I think probably towards, as the trip went on, obviously the more sleep deprived you got. So I think just the building fatigue by the end was pretty challenging. And then you had the whole variable of the state had closed down Harriman State Park in the middle of the FKT because of the storm. So there were probably 2 or 3 days of the FKT that, we didn't know if we were going to finish. Like, it was looking like it was going to end in Monroe at the start of Harriman State Park, which would have been incredibly anticlimactic. I mean, the understatement of the century, but, eventually we did get special permission to go through. So yeah, I think, there were probably a number of low moments throughout the 9.5 days.
Is that like the nettle stuff and stuff like that on the documentary?
That's a good question. I saw a cut of the film. It's probably about a month and a half ago now, but tomorrow morning I'm going to see the next cut, which is pretty much the final. So I'll find out if it's a cut or not. I
mean, so like a lot of this, once again, you're going lightweight. You're kind of traveling like as fast as you can. So shorts, I don't know, a top maybe. You're in July. It's a little warmer. At night, it gets a little bit colder. So basically, you're in shorts going through waist-high nettles. God damn, that sucks.
Yeah, I'm hoping, maybe I gain some immunity from it. We'll find out.
No, not at all.
Doesn't work
never
like
happens.
that.
Don't tease yourself, man. Yeah, the only thing that after a while you just kind of come a little bit anesthetized to them, and you don't feel the sting as much. But no, and we all, it's been a nice long winter, and we've all gotten rather comfortable and complacent in what we do outdoors in the Catskills, hiking and bushwhacking. But go back to those photos of August and September and look at some of those nettle shots, and it'll remind you of just how awful it can be out there. But Kim, you mentioned sleep deprivation. Were you basically going dawn to dusk?
Yeah, right.
Every day?
Yeah. I have these stats handy because the filmmaker and I have been chatting about it, so I can read this to you. We had figured out the time on trail. So from start to finish, it was 226 hours. If you do the math for 9.5 days. So 161 of those 226 were spent on trail moving. And the rest were not. So that came out to like maybe 6 hours per day total, included sitting down and eating, changing shoes, sleeping for a few hours each night. But the rest of the time was really spent on trail moving. So, was hoping to get a little bit more sleep than I did, but because of the weather and the trail conditions, things were moving a lot slower than anticipated. So, we just tried to cover as many miles as humanly possible each day.
And do you think your time would have been any faster had you gotten more sleep and been more rested and maybe been able to push a harder pace during the day, or that just wasn't going to factor into it?
We'll never know. I don't think.
You're not going to do it again. Is that
I
what
was
I'm
going to
hearing?
say, or you can do it again.
Or do it again.
Yeah.
I know, that's the problem with runners joke about there's something called runner's amnesia where, you probably have this with hiking, something that's really tough and you're like, I'll never do it again. And then, time goes on. You're like, oh, was it really that bad? I'm starting to cross over into that for the long path. It's been 2.5 years, almost, it'll be 3 years in July, where I'm like, I don't know, maybe we'll take another shot at it. It wouldn't be in July. I can tell you that. Definitely would not be in July.
I would,
would you go earlier? Would you go earlier in the year? In May?
I think a better month, would be May or in the fall before the leaves come down. You'll have a little more daylight, I think, in the spring, which is nice.
Yeah. And the nettles are shorter.
And the nettles are shorter. Yeah.
You got to go out before the nettles actually grow their teeth. Because end of July, August, when they have their teeth and they can growl at you.
They do growl. They're very aggressive.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They really, the nettles and the Catskills, I think they have issues, mental issues. They're very passive aggressive. They pretend they're just standing there complacently. And then when you get close to them, they attack.
Yeah.
It's, And we seem to forget that in the winter. So do you know of anybody who's tried to beat your record in the past 2.5 years?
No, not yet. So, that's what's fun about the FKT culture community is it really is a genuine desire to see people go out there. And especially, I'm the only woman who's made the attempt that I know of. So I would love for more women to go out there. That's what's cool about the FKT culture as well, is there's a lot of support. So I had a lot of support from the guys who had set the FKT before me, Jeff Adams and Ken Posner. And there are two guys named Dustin and Will. They went out and set records, and I had great support from them. So I would love, I think every FKT holder is probably waiting for that full circle moment where you can help the next person. So that would be awesome. Just a matter of when.
Yeah, it's we have a good time of with email and stuff like that, social media, of where we can go back and forth about this stuff, like their experience. What would you suggest?
Totally.
This and that. A lot of people bash social media. Of course, it sucks. It's made some places shitty places. But then once again, we have podcasts like this, and we get to hear about Kim's story about how she crazily struggled through the northern part of the Catskills. Now, I want to hear once again, what you're hitting the northern Catskills, we get a lot of nettles and stuff like that, and overgrowth. And then what happens when you start hitting the Catskills? So you hit kind of I would say Wyndham. Let's start at Wyndham all the way down. How was your experience at Wyndham going the escarpment and then going over to the Devil's Path?
Well, there was some much needed bliss when I started the escarpment trail for a number of reasons. That there was a trail, for one, it wasn't overgrown. We came through the trailhead. It was a great crew stop where I saw a lot of friends, and the rain had stopped. It had rained so hard, one of the hardest rainstorms I've ever been in at the start of that day. We started in around the Gilboa area, and when we got to the escarpment trailhead, it stopped raining, and that gave my feet a really much needed relief. I put on dry socks and dry shoes. It only lasted till we got to the first summit, and then the skies opened up again, and I thought it had rained the hardest ever before, but it seemed to rain even harder when we were climbing. But escarpment is magical. I think, you have a couple of really beautiful viewpoints, and, in the scope of the whole Catskill section, it's probably considered the most runnable, at least, or the easiest to move, some compared to the Devil's Path or the Burroughs Range or Bengal Hill. You have a lot more kind of runnable sections in escarpment. But that was a really cool day to get. We got as far. We went from Gilboa till we went through North South Lake and then ended at the road at the bottom of that hill before heading up to Catskill. So that's where we had ended that day.
Nice. Yeah, that's I mean, that section is magical, but then it also can be brutal, of course. Is this in like most of this in the documentary?
Yeah, so the documentary, it absolutely shows from start to finish the timeline of the FKT, going through each section. The primary message of the documentary, though, focuses on mental health. And, I share a lot about my own mental health journey in the documentary. And the filmmaker, his name is Shai Ben-Dor, I don't know how he did it. I mean, I feel like when I watched the film, it helped me process the experience and even just learning more about, the passage of time and what exactly happened out there. It's a kind of a wacky thing to see yourself on camera and, to be reliving the experience, but then at the same time, some very personal and intimate and, tough stuff is also being narrated on top of it. So it's a really interesting, it's an interesting experience to watch that.
So Kim, let's segue into that. When you started your planning, when you had this notion that you were going to do or set out to do the fastest known time for the long path, were you also at the same time thinking about doing a documentary?
Oh, no. That was not on my radar at all.
So how did that come about that you got involved in doing a documentary of this effort?
Yeah, that definitely wasn't on my bingo card for the FKT. The filmmaker Shai, he reached out to me shortly after I'd shared online that I was going to attempt the Long Path FKT, and he sent me a note and said, like, hey, we've crossed paths before. I've been following, your story through your running experiences and through SassquadTrail running, what you're doing in the community. I would love to make a film about it. Would you be open to talking about it? And
so what was your initial reaction to that? Were you like, yeah, I want to do this, or like, I'm not so sure?
Yeah, I was scared shitless, to be honest, to be perfectly honest. And Shai and we've talked about that since. I remember I went out for a really long run after I got that note from him and was just trying to think through, I've seen plenty of documentaries. I'm aware of like what happens when you have a film crew, they're following you and capturing some really intense emotions and experiences. But I had my first meeting with Shai. We had a sit down, and within 10 minutes, I had complete trust in him and how he was going to handle the film. We talked about extensively like expectations of, what was going to be shared, what wasn't going to be shared. And from every step from that first meeting up until now, we just talked yesterday about, our feelings about like how he's reaching out. How are you feeling about the premiere that's coming up in a few weeks, doing check-ins like that. So every step along the way, he's been incredible. And he's become a great friend. We kind of, my friend group kind of forcefully adopted him, and Seamus was the other guy who was out with Shai for the 9.5 days. So we kind of brought him into our circle through the experience.
So what were there express understandings in terms of what the rules were, the expectations were to share or not share? What raw and unfiltered moments would be captured, and when they would turn the cameras off, was there any agreement in advance, or was it just on the fly as you go?
Yeah, we definitely had a lot of chats about that leading up to the FKT, and Shai, I mean, he must have said it 100 times, if at any point you feel uncomfortable, you just say stop, and that's it. We turn the camera off. He's like, I don't care if it's 6 days in and we need to bail. Like, you feeling comfortable is what's most important. So, yeah, we had those chats ahead of time. I think there was maybe 2 times where I had asked, like, I really don't want you to film right now. But he was, the rest of the time, to be honest, I didn't even notice that he would have the camera out a lot of the times. He was incredibly respectful of those really intense moments. He still managed to capture a lot of it, but, there was no interviewing through the experience, which I really appreciated. It was all the focus was just on moving forward, not on, doing a 5-minute interview every day. We didn't do that.
And it was focused on you. It was focused on your FKT attempt. So that's, a success. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Now, like, was he? I'm kind of curious about this. At the end of the thing, was he basically like, "God damn, I'm glad this is over," because of just see all the craziness that happened.
We joke a lot because so the other guy who was with him, Seamus, he's become a great friend. Those two are besties. They're like bros. And somehow Shai convinced Seamus to come on this adventure. I don't know how many details he gave him ahead of time, but it certainly wasn't, the reality. They were living out of their Prius. They had a Prius, which is a very small vehicle.
Of course.
9.5 days. But, again, those two, I really consider them like brothers. They've become great part of the community. So
this Seamus guy,
Yeah.
Is he famous on Instagram?
I don't think so. He's
Okay.
Seamus Murphy. He's very Irish.
Okay. Because there's a guy that I follow that is a drummer named Seamus, and he's a very good drummer.
No, but we roped him in, and Seamus told me afterwards. He said that was the most special project he's ever been a part of. So I think, and I know for Shai as well, it's a very personal story for Shai. I think, he's obviously not in the film, but, mental health is he's very passionate about it as well. So, he's telling his story through all of it. It's pretty powerful.
So you talk about mental health. Can you throw into mental health that goes along with your documentary and stuff like that? What is this? What is the fastest known time and mental health coincide? How does that coincide?
Yeah, I think there's a really big crossover between mental health and the trails, whether that's hiking or running. I think a lot of people, we talked about it earlier, you're going out on the trails to find peace, and especially now, kind of a break from reality of what's going on. My personal story was I was using running as, quote, therapy. So, I grew up where mental health, there was just so much stigma surrounding it, surrounding therapy, getting help through meds, it was something that was never talked about, even though there's a lot of mental illness in my family. So, the last few years getting plugged in with this trail community and learning that, you can talk about these things, and that, you can only run or hike so far. It works until it doesn't work. And that was really kind of my experience up to a few years ago. I was using ultra running as a way to kind of solve my problems or to numb out, to check out. But then when I got plugged in with therapy through the organization called Bigger Than the Trail, they're a nonprofit that provides cost-free therapy for anybody who needs it. You don't have to be a trail runner in order to take advantage of it. So I started therapy in 2021, and it, quite literally changed my life through that. So now I'm really involved with the organization, and they're a big part of this film, and, getting the word out about the work that they do, and just making mental health care accessible to people.
So, Kim, was this something that was discussed at the onset about making this a documentary, that it would also incorporate your personal experiences before this, the Bigger Than the Trail project, and more than just trail running, but more of this holistic view of your background and what trail running does for you? Was that something that was discussed with the documentary fellows at the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was going to be always the primary driver of the film. The FKT for sure. It's the story, but using it as, kind of the foundation of talking about these really big and sometimes challenging topics. So yeah, the way Shai and Seamus they've woven it all together. It's a beautiful project that they put together.
So one of the questions I jotted down, and I think you're like on the verge of giving us this answer, is why do you think somebody should watch it who isn't a trail runner or into doing fastest known times? What would be your sales pitch or plug to the non-trail runner out there why they should watch this documentary of you suffering on the long path
of the stinging nettles?
Yeah.
I think it all boils down to we all have mental health. It's a universal thing. It's not something that some people have and some people don't. So, I mean, I after watching the film, I think that it's weird to say this because I understand that it's about a 360-mile run, and that is ridiculous in 99.9% of society to think about that. But the way that he put the film together is universal, and you don't have to relate to running that kind of a distance in order to learn and grow from the film. So, my hope is from people watching it that maybe they are where I was a number of years ago and, heard about therapy, heard about getting help, but like either just scared to do it or don't know how. My hope is that the film and what Shai put together will encourage people to take that step, even if it's not like getting on the phone and setting up a therapy appointment. Maybe it's just talking to a friend. And I think that kind of, it loops back in just the power of community. And that's really captured in the film of how, you can accomplish things with other people that you can't do by yourself. So I think there's a lot of messages that are relatable to people, and you don't have to run 360 miles in order to get it.
So understanding that this was going to be the message from the outset, and that you were doing this documentary as you were making this fastest known time attempt, did there ever come a point, or were there points during the course of the 9 days that you were regretting that you were doing a documentary while you were trying this? Or was the fact that you were doing this documentary while you were doing this something that was inspiring you to leg it out through the nettles and the epic rainfall and the larger than expected water crossings?
That's a really great question. There were absolutely moments, especially in the first few days, where I had those feelings. I describe it as kind of imposter syndrome, where, when the weather was nuts and, it was really tough right out the gate, there were thoughts of like, what the hell are we doing out here? And like, now there's a film crew and it's all being captured, and this is going to be like really, those and full transparency, those were the thoughts going through my head. As the 9.5 days went on, those thoughts faded, I think, just because I was gaining some momentum and we were moving. But yeah, that's a great question. I don't think at any point I knew that they were there, obviously. I mean, Shai and Seamus, they really became a part of the crew, with especially in the Catskill section, because Shai, he grew up towards the Goshen area and done a lot of hiking and backpacking through the Catskills. So his knowledge was very much needed, especially with like the road closures all throughout Harriman and getting up into the Catskills. So, to me, during the FKT, Seamus and Shai were a part of the crew. I didn't really even view them as the film. I mean, obviously they had a camera and a boom mic, so I know that they were filming, but it wasn't a conscious thing of.
So I have this image here. I am, or here you are, whether it's on the Escarpment Trail, the Devil's Path, the Burroughs Range, you're hustling along, whether you're running at the time or just fast walking, hiking along. what are these guys doing? Are they like ahead of you, behind
Right?
you, alongside
I'm curious
of you?
as well.
A boom mic, which is to somebody who doesn't know, it's like a long stick or pole with a microphone on the end of it, and then the other one has a camera. Is this like a big camera? Is it a smaller like GoPro
What the hell's
camera?
going on with this?
Yeah. Give us a little info on like what's it like? What's the equipment and how's it going down on the trail?
I am so glad you asked that, because these are the things that aren't going to be seen in the documentary. And I've said so many times to those guys, like, there should be a documentary about what you two did out there, because I mean, Shai was out there on the Devil's Path with his huge camera, scrambling up, and he would get me from behind, and then he would go in front. He did the Burroughs Range up to Slide, where he had his camera, and then of course it started raining, so he's like, "It's okay, I'll switch to my phone." And he switched to his phone and got some footage. But he had a number of they had a number of different cameras. They had a really big handheld. There was one that kind of looked like this scuba tank setup, where it was like a harness with this like pole that goes overhead, and the camera's hanging from like a string, essentially. So it gives, I don't know all the technical terms, but
it gives balance. It keeps the balance where it will stay in frame of view.
Yeah, Stosh hikes with his own personal documentary crew.
Dude, I used to look at my YouTube stuff. I used to do that kind of stuff, and then
Kimber, these guys are actually like sprinting to get ahead of you at times with their gear.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there was ever a point where I was moving lightning speed, so that wasn't too challenging.
Yeah.
Another really impressive thing that Shai did was, there's a good amount of road sections through the long path. So he brought his skateboard out, and he would be skateboarding while filming with the camera. Yeah, it was nuts. It was incredible. And they did a lot of drone footage, which personally, that's some of my favorite parts of the film, because it's so beautiful. Like he got drone footage in the Catskills with the inversion clouds, and he got Verkadere Falls through Minnewaska at sunset. I mean, and captured like the thunder and lightning storms and stuff like that. So, from a technical standpoint, they're extremely talented individuals, and I wish I had the brain cells to take more videos of them. Like I wish I could go. I wish I had pulled out my phone and just videoed Shai on the Devil's Path, because it's like, no one's gonna believe this. Like, I can describe it to you guys, but it was quite a sight to see in person.
So did that ever feel like a burden out there? Like you were kind of like get the hell away from me. I'm trying to do this, and then. Or was it kind of like an inspiration? It's like, okay, I can move faster, and because of these guys are I'm trying to show the world what I got here, and I can do better.
I mean, I had never had one of those thoughts. I think it was just so hard. I was not thinking about like, yay, they're making a film about me. Like that it just wasn't in my, in my brain at the time. There were, I think, 2 instances where I had asked Shai to stop filming, because I was really low. And, but it's funny, looking back, there's a part of me that's like, man, I kind of wish that they did film some of that stuff, because that's the real stuff that really happens out there. But again, just so respectful, and it was no issue. He's like, absolutely, stop filming. There was never any like he's sneaking with the camera trying to capture, when I'm crying or something like that.
Like MTV Live or something like that.
No, that didn't happen.
These guys are out there 9 days with their equipment. Aren't they getting tired?
Oh,
what is it?
What is it? Good question.
It's not like they're like you that are out, at least as far as I know, that they're out running all the time, and maybe they're physically fit, but are they this physically fit to do this for 9 days with all this gear? And at times they're trying to get out ahead of you to get the shot or catch up with you. I mean, aren't they like by day 4 or 5? Aren't they a little sleep deprived? And aren't they kind of saying to themselves, "What the fuck did we get ourselves into?"
So you'll have to ask them that question. But
Yeah.
I mean, I could definitely. They were tired. Everybody was tired. I remember there is one story from the longest day I did was about 56 miles or so, where we went
Jesus.
from basically South Gully by Minnewaska, like where you dump out on South Gully Road or Gully Road, and ended at the Monroe commuter lot. So
Wow.
we did, well, actually, we were probably 2 or 3 miles short of the Monroe commuter lot. But the story that I found out, I hear all these stories now, like after the fact, because you have no idea what's going on. But they had to go, they had a friend who lived in Chester or something, and all their stuff was dead. Like that was a challenge too. Like they had to keep everything charged. They had the variable of keeping batteries charged, but then also their memory cards filled up. I mean, they had over 20 hours of footage. So it was a constant kind of juggle of like, okay, we got to go find somewhere to charge. We got to dump the memory cards on a backup drive. So they had done that day, and they told each other, like, okay, let's sleep for like 2 hours. And they went to like Never Never Land, and they didn't wake up until the next day. And so, they came back, they met at the commuter lot, and they're like, you ran clear across, Orange County. We can't believe how far you ran. And Shai had all these plans of like, he was going to come out on the bike path because it was paved. He'd have his skateboard, and, they were just super tired, and they needed a break. Yeah. Like I think everybody did, and they especially needed a little time out at that moment.
Yeah, it sounds like they hit their limit, right about there, and they needed to recharge.
They did, but they were there every step of the way. I mean, they were there until the very end, up until New York City. So it's really incredible. Yeah. I wish there was like a separate film on those two guys.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody had a major effort for this project.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the crew, the women who were in the RV, I think they slept less than I did because, at the end of the day, they're helping, reset everything and get me food and blah, blah. And then once I was done with those tasks, I went out for a few hours, and they're still, cleaning things up, getting things ready for the next day. So yeah, it was a Herculean effort by everybody for sure.
So all this stuff that's going on, and we have, you battling nettles, you battling rainstorms and steep ascents and stuff like that. So was there stuff not covered in the documentary that we talked about, of course, on episode 87? What about these 2 police calls in Gilboa?
Yeah, I mean, it would be impossible to cover everything in a film. But for sure, I think, some of these really wacky experiences are not making the cut just because, the overall theme, there are some funny moments in the documentary, but it is a little bit more on the serious side with, talking about mental health and all that stuff.
Definitely.
So I actually just made a video that I'm probably going to put out tomorrow evening of all of those dumb video clips, because I want it to live on the internet in some fashion. And I've got some goofy music that's going to play in the background, but there'll be some in there. But I'm hoping Shai and Jameis are going to be able to pull off a blooper reel, because that'll be pure gold to have some bloopers at the end.
You didn't talk about that. What happened?
With
the police calls.
Oh, the police calls. Yeah. So that the first call that was made on us was outside of Gilboa that evening. It was the second night. I had suggested, like, let's park on this quiet road. It's next to this cemetery. It was called like the Freese Cemetery. Very small, it's probably super old cemetery. And so they're like, okay, that's in the spreadsheet. We're going to park there. So, I ended the day. We're getting ready to go to sleep. And then there's these, blue and red flashing lights outside of the RV. And the police officer said that somebody called because the RV looked suspicious parked next to the cemetery. Which, I guess hindsight, that's fair. Why is there an RV parked out of a cemetery in the middle of nowhere? So
this is where we have to ask Kim, did you ever watch the TV series Breaking Bad?
Oh no. Is that an episode?
What?
Yeah, well, don't you remember in Breaking Bad, Stosh, they were cooking meth
Inside the RV.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like a portable meth lab. So,
Yeah.
At least we know the neighborhood watch is alive and well, and Gilboa, yeah.
They were on it. Yeah, so the officer, he took all of our names and information and, said that.
So how many people? You had the two fellows doing the documentary in their Prius, right? They were sleeping in that vehicle.
Yeah.
Then how many people are in the RV?
Yeah, in the RV, there's generally myself, my two friends, Robin and Dina. So 3 people, and then there were other vehicles. So my friend Lynn Mackey, she has a minivan, and then my other friend Sarah, she had her Subaru. So there's an entourage, I guess you could call it. So it could look suspicious.
It could look with lights here and there, and then somebody running with a boom and. No, not suspicious at all in a town that has 500 people max.
Exactly.
Yeah. No way. I live in Oneonta, which is, it says 14,000 people, but that's probably including college kids. But going driving, I drive more south. Is just like, all right, Gilboa, Stanford.
There's not a lot going on.
Not a lot at all. Yeah. So I can see why these big lights or an RV parked outside of an area with tracks so much. It's speculation and be like, oh, something's going on here. We might want to check it out. Oh, it's just a person attempting the fastest known time. So, So what about the beaver encounter? We chat about it on this episode 87. Was that ever involved in the documentary?
No, they weren't out on the time. I know, no one's going to believe the story. I do. Do you have videos of that? I do have video. I have a 7-minute long video of the beaver encounter because I kept saying, first of all, I was wondering if I was hallucinating because this can't be real, that this beaver is forcing us back up the trail towards the lake. And then I was like, no, this is real and nobody's going to believe us. So I was taking video of it. But yeah, we were making that descent off of the lake to head down to that little trailhead. And there was this creature that was on the trail. We couldn't tell what it was. And then we saw, its flat tail. I was like, oh my God, is that a beaver? And it just kept coming towards us. The trail wasn't wide enough to go around. And, my friend Kenton, who was with me, he was a little freaked out, to be honest. He was a little spooked by the beaver. And I was just delirious. I was like, this is crazy. I can't believe it's a beaver. So it took literally 10 minutes of us backing up. We were shouting. Kenton was whistling. And finally, it got to this split in the trail and there was a stream on one side and it just dove into the stream and we never saw it again. And then we took off running. We ran and Ken probably ran a little further than we needed to. He was a little freaked out.
So Chris LeBlanc, you would have been beaten if it wasn't for these freaking beavers.
It was the beavers. Yep. It was the beavers.
God damn, beavers. Where was that at? Where would you say during your time at the fastest known time?
Yeah, that was I guess you're off of the escarpment trail at that point where it starts to do, it's probably the easiest section of the long path where you're descending. I forget what color it is, but you're descending down to the road that eventually will start you up Catskill.
Wow.
That big climb. So, yeah.
So please post this on your Instagram because I'm very curious about this. So
I will.
So you said you'd only watched half of it yet?
So I watched the cut that he had put together. I think it was in February, so a couple months ago. I drove up to New Haven. He lives in New Haven, Connecticut, and we sat down because that was something I'd spoken with him, and he felt it was really important as well. I felt the same way that, I watched the film before the premiere and it came out to the public. So I went up there and watched that cut and, cried my eyes out all 28 minutes of the film. And then, since that, he's been, polishing it, rearranging a couple things. So tonight, I believe, is the official deadline him and Seamus have kind of put on themselves, because May 3rd is the premiere date. We rented out a movie theater in Jersey, and so the film is going to get wrapped up. So I think tomorrow I'm going to be able to see what will pretty much be the final version of the film.
And what is your impression so far?
It was like I said earlier, it's an interesting experience to watch yourself in a movie. You know what I mean? It was an incredibly visceral experience. It brought me back instantly. All of the scenes, it felt like it was just yesterday that the whole experience happened. It's a very, visceral, I guess, is the right word. I don't know. I just felt it in my whole body watching the film. And it was moving. It was really emotional to watch it, and just to see the way that he put it together. And, we had talked about beforehand, he had kind of gave a little disclaimer, it's impossible to get everybody in the film. I hope you know that. But when the film ended, I said to him, I know you didn't get everybody in the film. Everybody doesn't have FaceTime, but it felt like you captured the whole community experience, even beyond, the people that were there helping in person, the greater community. Because that was another really incredible part of the experience, was there were hundreds of people who were following along. There was this huge group chat that my friends were keeping updated, and people were sending in messages throughout the FKT. And that was something that it really helped me a lot throughout the 9.5 days, was I was reading those notes from people. So yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but he captured that in the film, and it's only 28 minutes. And I said that to him too. I was I felt like that was 2 hours long. It did not feel like 28 minutes. It was a very timeless experience.
So, and speaking of time, how long is the final cut supposed to be?
I think it's going to be about 26 to 28 minutes.
Wow. Okay. And you're having the premiere on May 3rd. Where in New Jersey?
Yeah, we rented out this family-owned historic 100-year-old theater in Hawthorne, New Jersey. It's got great vibes. So, and it's been in their family for a couple generations. So they were really excited to have us rent the theater. So we rented it for Friday evening, is at 7 p.m. is the world premiere. And then we added on a matinee on Sunday afternoon at 1:00, since we've almost filled the theater for Saturday evening. So we want to give people an opportunity to come out.
Where does it go after that? Where can we, after the 3rd and the 4th, where do we go to watch this?
Yeah, it's gonna be streaming. I'm not sure if Shai has landed yet on if it's gonna be YouTube or through his website, but it will be accessible to the public. So those details are forthcoming.
Yeah, that sounds very
fantastic.
Cool. All right. Now, I don't know if Stash has anything else on the documentary. Do you? Because I've got my one recent add-in I threw on. Any more documentary questions? Or I'm going to go to the add-in.
You can do the add-in, then I'll do the question after that, buddy.
Okay. So, Kim, I checked out your webpage while we were online here, and I want you to tell us about, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but it's a take on the Minnewaska name, I gather, and the name of your company. Yeah. Tell us about the fundraiser that you're doing for SassquadTrail.
Yes, you nailed it. SassquadTrail. We like to put a little squatchy twist on all of the raise
Yeah.
names. So, so this fundraiser, it comes back to Ken Posner and Todd Jennings. You know, like I mentioned before, they created the original Ellenville Mountain Festival race that ran for a number of years. And since then, they've gone on to create their nonprofit that's called Run Wild Incorporated. And Run Wild, basically, their main goal is to fundraise for land acquisition in order to, you know, take the long path, for example, to move road sections onto trails. So slowly buying parcels of land. They work very, you know, hand in hand with the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference. So, you know, when I was working with them, I said, I'd really love to tie in what you're doing. And they've got a huge fundraising campaign going right now to basically preserve and protect Verkadere Falls. From my understanding, the falls are up for sale, and I think it's being purchased by Open Space Institute or I have to go back and read the exact PDF, but basically the fundraiser we're doing is that's going towards the preservation of the falls there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because as I understand it, the top of the falls is in the park,
Mm-hmm.
and the base of the falls is on private property. So it would be nice for all of that to come under public ownership.
Yeah, I mean it's such an incredible spot. If you've been there.
It's my backyard.
Yeah,
I live
it's
10 minutes away.
Oh my gosh, it's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, you want a good adventure, you go there in the winter when it's all iced up.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's crazy. So that's all I have, Kim. It was fun talking to you, and I'm going to hand it back over to Stosh, but good luck in everything you do, and I'm looking forward to watching your documentary.
Thank you. Yeah, we're working on an actual film tour, so doing screenings throughout the country, and we are working right now with the Trail Conference to hopefully do a screening in the Catskills at some point this summer. So we're looking at a couple of different venues, but it'd be really cool to tie you guys in. And, you know, we're trying for the screenings to have various vendors and stuff come out. So that'd be really cool to link up with you guys for that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So what about this Bigger Than the Trail? Do you want to talk about that? Because, you know, that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Bigger Than the Trail is a nonprofit that they provide cost-free therapy for anybody who needs it. So you don't have to be a runner in order to take advantage of those services. So like I mentioned earlier, that's how I first got plugged in with therapy, was because of Bigger Than the Trail. So now my company, SassQuad, we do a lot of fundraising efforts for Bigger Than the Trail because, you know, the work they're doing is amazing, but it does require funds in order to get people the help that they need. So, you know, check it out. The website is bttt.run. And, you know, the process of getting help is really easy. It's not a whole drawn out thing. You know, you fill out a little questionnaire, and then you're basically given the credits to use on a couple different platforms for access to therapy. So really, really incredible organization.
I will definitely post their link in the show notes because I was very curious about that. So,
awesome.
Amazing. So, Kim, thank you so much for joining us tonight. So, last question I have that we always have, post-hike brews and bites. What can you say about, like, when your journey along the long path with this amazing documentary they have going on? What can you give a shout out to that we can chat about in the show?
Yeah, I mean, the fan favorite for the whole crew was definitely Brio's in Phoenicia. I mean, they've told me since that was like one of the greatest moments of the week was when they got to sit down and eat pizza at Brio's, because it was like one of the stress-free moments of the entire journey. So probably Brio's. And now I got to check out Cohen's Bakery, which I wrote down. So I got to check that out when I go out for some race prep this week in Ellenville.
Talk about carbo loading.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sounds fantastic. So, Kim, thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. I look forward to the documentary. I will definitely hook up with you, and we will hook up with other people to get this kind of broadcasted all over the Catskills, because it should be, to see, once again, intertwining, fastest known time, hiking, mental health is always a great thing to get going and get to preaching about. And the Catskills and the community, especially because this is a tight community. And as you've shown tonight, you have a tight community as well. So let's keep it going.
Yeah, thank you guys. You got some really awesome questions. I appreciate you bringing me back on for round 3 here. This was great. Love chatting with you both.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Had a great time. Yeah. So thank you once again to the monthly supporters and monthly sponsors of the show. Really appreciate you guys supporting and sponsoring the show. It's awesome. Thank you to everybody who has donated the show. And once again, thank you to everybody who is listening, especially 2 hours into this. Still listening. I highly doubt anybody is, but
I think they are. I think Kim was the star of the evening. So people made it to the end.
I hope so. Because this was a great show.
The 3 of us, we made a good team. 3 of us.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We're a great team, Kim, but I'm not doing a fastest known time with you. That's where I draw the
never
line.
say never.
I'm saying never. I'm saying
I did
never
the fastest known time up
time.
Round Top today, so
Yeah.
screw you. All right, so everybody have a good night. Let's keep in touch in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right,
Thanks,
have a
Tim.
good night.
See ya.
Hey everyone, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking news, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you gotta just keep on living in the Catskills, man. Livin.
Wicked.